with 77% of the workforce saying that they have experienced some sort of burnout in their current role. We need help, and I'm turning to one of my friends and a certified coach to get us exactly that. Linda Zelnick, welcome to the Sami Cone Show.
Thank you, Sammy. It's great to be here.
Well, I'm excited to talk about this because I just gave this crazy statistic about the workforce, but really we all work on some capacity, whether we're talking about a stay-at-home mom, someone that's retired, or you're in your traditional 9 to 5, we all have something that we're doing every day. And if that's not bringing us joy, it really eats away at us, doesn't it?
It really does. Those little things that drain our energy add up to really put us at risk for burnout.
Yeah, and so you've written a great guide, a book called From Burnout to Boom. What else did you find that really made you want to write this, may I say, a very practical book, and I say this in the most complimentary way possible, a quick read, because if we're burned out, we don't need one more thing to add to our plate, right?
Yes, yeah, that was the goal of Burnout to Boom, was to make this accessible. I've been burned out. When you're burned out, you don't feel like you have any time. And so it gets straight to the heart of it, starts with awareness and moves on into strategies to really create a sustainable pace change.
Yeah, and I do want to get to those strategies, but can you just talk first about some of the long-term implications if we don't address some of these issues?
Yes, this is the part that really grabbed my attention, and I wasn't really aware of it until I did the research. So we operate at this pace, and we start to think it's normal. It'll get better next month, or when the kids are a little older, or in this phase, when life slows down. But if it's left untreated, it can lead to diabetes, heart attacks, long-term depression, so many things that are more serious than we realize by just going from one thing to the other and living in a state of exhaustion or overwhelm.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us are feeling that. And I think, especially even coming out of quarantine, everyone thinks, oh, well, we weren't doing a lot, but even that takes a toll, that exhaustion. So if someone just is tuning in right now and you could tell them one thing to change today to help them move from burnout to boom, what would that be?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I recommend, the thing I recommend most often, is to create margin. So by having our day scheduled constantly, going from one thing to the other, and culture supports this to do all the things, we don't have any space for the unexpected, and yet we know the unexpected comes up. And so when that unexpected thing comes on top of an already busy and stressful schedule, it creates even more undue stress, the long-term stress that just comes from that. And so creating margin looks like cutting out things that aren't essential, that are maybe things we feel like we ought to do, or things that used to serve us and were needed at one point for our lives but aren't anymore. Sometimes this looks like habits or different tasks and commitments, and sometimes it's even people, where we need to limit the amount of people we're engaging with and when.
Yeah, I'll just raise my hand. I'm guilty. And so we have just a minute left, but can you just end us with some encouragement for that woman that's watching that's like, that's me, but I don't know how to change?
Yes. So first of all, your best matters. Your full self, the feeling like yourself again, is very important, and it's doable. It is. I've got this guide here for you with several strategies filtered in to help pick what fits you in your context, and little sustainable shifts add up to make a big difference. And self-care helps, but we can't self-care ourselves out of burnout, or we wouldn't have ended up burned out.
Oh my
so
goodness. That's
anybody
so
that I can help with a strategy session, I'd love to.
Yeah, that's so helpful. We're going to put your website up at altacoaching.com. Thank you, Linda, for all your help today.
Thank you for having me, Sammy.
Absolutely. Before I go, I need you to know to find the light. Have you ever pulled apart a pair of chopsticks from a Chinese takeout restaurant only to discover a splinter in your finger later? That happened to me one night, and while I couldn't see anything in my hand, I also couldn't ignore the pain. I did everything possible to both remedy and ignore the foreign object, but to no avail. Whether it was because of the lack of light, improper tools, or because I simply started doubting whether or not something was really there at all, I soon gave up and moved on. It wasn't until the next morning that things became more clear. With the help from the daylight, tweezers, and a magnifying glass, I was finally able to locate and remove the splinter from the night before. It made me think about how negativity and poor choices can penetrate our lives, sometimes without us even knowing how they got there. At first, we may try to fight against them, but if we linger in the darkness too long, we begin to accommodate the intruder instead of removing it. As you go about your day-to-day, I ask you to examine what spiritual or emotional splinter needs to be removed from your life. Maybe it's metaphorical, but it's quite possible it's something much more literal. Wherever you are right now, stop to find the light. Never accommodate something in your life you know to be untrue, unwise, or unwelcome. Trust your God-given intuition and never be afraid to ask for help removing something from your life you know shouldn't be there in the first place. I learned something from each of my guests today, and I pray you did too. I want to thank each of them for sharing their passion with us, and I thank you for being willing to take time out of your day to join in our conversations. I hope you have a great day. Make sure you make it great, and do not wait to tell someone you love how you feel about them. Bye, friends.